Debelah, how are you coping with these hard times? Debelah, the Metropolitan Police Department strongly believes the disappearances of your sister and her friends are linked to a depraved serial killer. Aren't you afraid the killer would come back to finish the job? Debelah, do you have a hypothesis of where the young girls are at? Debelah, do you believe the disappearance of Tamika and her friends is related to the disappearance of Juan Jimenez? These are some of the many stupid questions news reporters asked me every time I left my house. The disappearance of Tamika, Eileen, Missy, and Donna has made news nationwide within 48 hours. The story I gave police was the girls were having a sleepover and I passed out asleep. When I woke up, they were gone with the bedroom window open. The case eventually became known as the Yorktown 4. The truth is the girls were still in Tamika's bedroom, handcuffed to the corners of her bed. Help, somebody help us, Donna yelled. There's no point of screaming, I said. This is a soundproof room. Suddenly, all the girls began talking all at once. Tamika, you never said your sister was a psycho, Missy said. I knew it. I knew I should have never trusted your crazy ass, Eileen yelled to Tamika. Oh, God, please don't let me die, Donna sobbed. Deb, why are you doing this? I love you. You're all I got, Tamika sobbed. Will you all shut the fuck up? I finally yelled. The girls went silent for a brief moment until Tamika finally asked if I would kill them. Don't worry, I replied. I won't kill any of you. I'm just having my fun with you guys. That wasn't the truth. I just did not know how I wanted to end their life. Chloroform and strangling them would be too unsatisfactory. I'm heading out soon for a press release on you guys' disappearances. I'll be back later to make lunch. Later that day, I was in front of the WUSA 9 news station holding my first press release for the Yorktown 4. The press release was being seen nationwide. Before the camera rolled, I made sure I appeared I was crying. I even faked crying during my speech. The bond between solving is one of those bonds that cannot be broken. After the death of my parents, I vowed to myself to be the best big sister that I can be. I made sure she received a lot of love, took care of her, and made sure she received a proper education. I know some of you may be too focused on some of the things she did in middle school and her early high school career. But Tamika was a teenager, and no one should be judged by the mistakes they made as teenagers. To know Tamika was to love her. She was truly one in a billion. She met Donna and Missy in kindergarten, and in high school, they added Eileen to their girl group. They were some of the most goofy girls I ever met. I always enjoyed their company, and that is why I didn't hesitate when Tamika asked to have a sleepover. For the person who abducted her, all I want is my sister, and I will do anything to have her back safely. Please, if it's money, if you want anything else, I'm willing to give it. Just please give me back my sister and her friends. I love my sister. I immediately left the stand sobbing, and I was met with an abundance of sympathy from the public, police, and news reporters. Believe me when I say, if I would have put my mind to it, I could have been an Oscar-winning actress back then. The following weekend, while I was hanging out in my living room, I received a knock at my door. Good afternoon, miss. I'm Detective Curry from the Metropolitan Police Department. Mind if I come in? What is this regarding? I asked, and Detective Curry smirked. I just want to ask you a few questions, if that's all right. I thought about it for a moment, then welcomed him in. As soon as he sat on the couch, I went to the kitchen to pour him a cup of coffee, but he politely refused. That was smart on his end. That cup of coffee had antifreeze in it. So, Miss Thompson, can you describe the night when Tamika and her friends disappeared? It was late at night. I heard Tamika and the other girls making a lot of noise and blasting their music. I couldn't really concentrate on my paper, and I was very tired. So I went downstairs to the basement where I couldn't hear the noises and fell asleep. The next day, the house was eerily quiet, and when I opened Tamika's door, the girls were gone, and the window was wide open. What time would you say you fell asleep in the time you opened Tamika's door? Detective Curry asked. Around 11 p.m. when I fell asleep. I woke up around 10 a.m. that morning. Please, just find my sister. She is my other half. Without her, I'm nothing. Miss Thompson, we're doing everything we can to solve this case. We talked for around 45 minutes. The more we talked, the more I could tell Detective Curry was becoming suspicious of me. I could tell by the look on his face. At the end of the conversation, he asked if he could look around the house. I didn't hesitate. He checked the bathroom. Nothing suspicious. He checked my room. Nothing suspicious. He checked Tamikia's room. Nothing suspicious. But he did say the girls' clothing, radio, makeup, and other belongings they left behind. Do you mind if I take a look in the basement? Detective Curry asked. My mind went on high alert. I violently moved the girls in a secret room in the basement, a refrigerator covering the room's door. Sure, go ahead, I finally said. Detective Curry slowly walked down the unstable basement stairs. I walked behind him with my pocket knife behind me. He checked every aspect of the area, including the bathroom and underneath the king-size bed. Well, thank you for allowing me to check your house, Miss Thompson, Detective Curry said. Suddenly, we both heard a large bang coming from the wall. Detective Curry immediately turned around, facing the refrigerator. My mind was racing. Am I really going to have to cut the throat of a future colleague? And if he finds out, that means I'll have to murder all 4 of the girls. I was nowhere near finished with my torturous ways, and I hadn't figured out how I wanted to murder them. Detective Curry slowly but surely walked toward the refrigerator and put his ear on it. Is there a problem, sir? I asked quietly, walking behind him, getting ready to use my pocket knife on his neck. Suddenly, his cell phone rang. I sighed in relief in my mind. Oh my God, I definitely forgot about that. I'll be there in 20 minutes, Detective Curry said over the phone. Miss Thompson, I forgot that I was supposed to be at an important meeting. We will keep in touch. Thanks for stopping by, I said secretly, putting the pocket knife in the pockets on the bottom of my jeans. He smiled and I watched him go up the stairs. A month and a half after the disappearances, and the Yorktown 4 has already become a nationwide sensation. Theories of what could have happened consistently played on the news, and I can't tell you how many groups were formed online. Dedicated to the Yorktown 4, I lost count at around 250. I was walking upstairs in my home and I heard vomiting. I already knew it was vomit. I smelled vomit the moment I entered my home. Deb, Eileen is very sick, Tamika said. I hit Tamika very hard in the stomach and kneeled in front of Eileen. What's wrong with you? I asked. I didn't put poison in any of your food. Your sickness is not due to me. I don't know. I just been sick all day, Eileen said. Don't forget to mention that you haven't had your menstrual cycle since we were tied up, Donna said to Eileen. My eyes widened. I didn't want to expect the worst, but couldn't ignore the symptoms I was being told. I quickly went into the bathroom to find a pregnancy test because Tamika had had many pregnancy scares. I finally found an unused pregnancy test in the cabinet and returned to the room. Here, take this, I told Eileen, throwing the pregnancy test at her. When the results came back a few minutes later, my worst fear was confirmed. Eileen was pregnant, and later I found out Juan Jimenez was the father. What was I supposed to do? How would I explain a child to everyone? What if the baby ends up having Eileen's features? What if people hear the baby crying or Eileen screaming in agony during childbirth? Tamika's room wasn't soundproof. I only said that to shut them up. I had to think quickly, and not only because I didn't want to create a situation, but also because I had to be back to work in a few minutes. Sorry I'm late. I had something come up during my lunch break. I told my coworker working in the deli. In other words, I went to the abortion clinic to pick up pills for Eileen's abortion. Hey, Debelah, Mary Beth wants to see you in her office, my coworker replied. Why would Mary Beth want to see me? Other than my yearly performance review, I almost never end up in her office. Have a seat, Mary Beth said. Can I help you? I asked. I just wanted to check in on you. We haven't talked since, well, you know, I'm here for you if you need anything. Thanks for caring. I'm hanging in there. Also, I noticed you were getting quite close to Pastor Eddie, Mary Beth added. I saw you guys coming out of the mall the other day. I stared at her. Is that a problem for you? Oh, of course not. I just want to know when you guys started hanging out. Since the first time I visited his church. What do you guys talk about? Mary Beth asked. A variety of things, I replied. Like what? Mary Beth asked. Mainly church, our common passions, work, school life, etc. What places do you guys normally hang out at? Mainly at his house. Do you like him? Mary Beth asked. Why are you asking me all these questions? I asked. I'm sorry for giving you the 5th degree. I just want to say as a friend, be careful who you trust. You never truly know a person. Also, it's not easy being the first lady if you guys get married. Thank you for your concern, but I think I know what I'm doing. Mary Beth may have looked like a concerned friend, but I wasn't Boo Boo the fool. She was clearly jealous and couldn't believe Pastor Eddie would choose a much younger woman over her. When I returned to my workstation, I was immediately greeted by an extremely rude customer. By looking at her, I could tell she's lived a hard life. "Good afternoon. How may I help you?" I asked her. "Can I have another server?" the despondent woman yelled. I could clearly tell she had a bad day and was taking it out of me. My colleague stepped out. "I can serve you," I replied, rolling my eyes. "Fine, goddammit. Give me the large chicken sandwich." I grabbed the bread and prepared to make her sandwich. The obese woman continued to shout at me to add more toppings. When I wrapped up her sandwich, she shouted again and told me to heat the sandwich. I let out a big sign and walked toward the oven. "Ah, it's too bad I forgot my little bottle of cyanide," I thought to myself. "That will be $11.99, I told the woman, slamming her sandwich in front of her. "Can I get a discount? I'm a regular customer, so I deserve a discount," the woman yelled. "Unfortunately, we don't offer discounts at this deli." The woman sighed and began to pull out her debit card. While she did that, two other rough-looking women walked into the store and immediately walked up close to her. It looked like they were trying to see what the woman's PIN number was. The woman noticed they were too close to her, so she tried to block them from looking. The two girls jumped on her and attacked her. I could have called the police, but instead I walked outside for a smoke break. The first few months after I held the girls hostage was tiresome. News anchors couldn't wait to see me to harass me with dumb questions. I was also tired of random strangers coming up to me to offer their sympathy. So I decided to seek a therapist. Therapy wasn't my idea, and I also thought it was stupid. Why pay someone to make you feel good about yourself? Pastor Eddie and I had a conversation about it, though, and he talked me into it. 5 minutes into my therapy session, I was already regretting it. This woman therapist was vile, rude, and constantly cutting me off when I tried to answer her dumb questions. I did not know why she chose this field. What irritated me the most is she thought she knew me, but she couldn't have been more wrong. "What do you want from me?" she asked. "I'm not exactly sure," I replied. "So why are you here? Therapy is expensive." "I think I will leave now," I said, standing up preparing to leave. "My receptionist will help you schedule your follow-up," the therapist said. I stared at her. At first, I wanted to ask where she got her license from, but instead I spat at her and waited in the woods near her office and watched her leave the building. Ain't no way in hell I'm going to let someone disrespect me like that without me stabbing them in the neck or eye. The time was 5 p.m., and I found a way into her house basement with a saw to commit my most bloodiest murder yet. I slowly made my way up the stairs and immediately heard her voice. She was talking on her cell, taking a bubble bath. This woman was sick. She was saying intimate details on various clients over the phone, clearly breaking HIPAA laws. As I slowly made my way into the closet next to the bathroom, she began to talk about me. "I talked to my new client today. She was such a bitch," she said, laughing. "She actually scared me a bit. I think she might be a psychopath." I stood there in the closet for about an hour listening to her derogatory conversation. When she got out of the tub, I made my way toward one of her bedrooms. "Who's there?" she yelled. I guess my footsteps weren't silent enough. I got my washcloth and chloroform ready. She walked toward the room where I hid. Her face turned to terror when she saw me, but she did not have time to protect herself. I put the chloroform on her face, pushed her onto the bed, and sawed her head off. As I removed the earwax from my ear using my ear curette, I began to have the exact feeling I had after murdering Juan Jimenez. Why don't I find satisfaction with the methods I use killing my victims? Would I ever find my modus operandi? These questions kept running through my head as I stared at myself in the bathroom mirror. That day was the first and only time I reconsidered being a serial killer. That feeling went away very quickly. I decided I would just kill more frequently. I'll eventually find the MO I enjoy. I attended my criminology 101 class the following Saturday morning. Everyone was in attendance, including Kathy. Kathy was the absolute Karen. She would complain about everything to our criminology professors as well as other professors at the university. I wasn't sure why she always complained, because I could name 1,000 things about her to complain about. "Before I start this class today, I want to honor Ms. Debelah Thompson," Professor Paul said to the class. Professor Paul was a basic-looking man, fair-skinned, medium build, and a bald head. He spoke in a monotone voice during his lectures. But after class, he had the most charming personality. Everyone clapped for me. I smiled a little bit inside. Everyone should be clapping for me. I'm the best. Despite her unbearable situation, Ms. Thompson has maintained perfect attendance in this class, Professor Paul said. Everyone clapped except for Kathy. She chuckled, and it was heard by both me and the professor. Is there something you'd like to add, Kathy? Professor Paul asked. It's just everyone goes through hardships, but you don't applaud them, Kathy said. Don't be a hater, one student shouted. I'm not hating. It's the truth. I went to class during below zero weather while having bronchitis, and no one clapped for me, Kathy said. I also went to class while my mom was ill. Well, not many people have their siblings kidnapped during the middle of the night, Professor Paul said. Sounds like someone is a little jealous. I'm not jealous. It's just all of you seem to praise this woman because of her attendance and grades. A lot of students here have perfect GPS. I have a 4.0, Kathy said. Well, at least I didn't have to sleep around to get my 4.0, I finally said. Everyone gasped. Bitch, you want to fight? Kathy yelled. I hope you have good health insurance because you're going to need it with the damage I'll do to you, I said calmly. Everyone began to gawk and had their cell phones out ready to record, believing a fight would occur any minute. Ladies, please stop, Professor Paul said. You can finish this fight later, but right now it's time to take a test. Kathy's behavior in class was very inappropriate. Who did she think she was? Like I said before, there's no way in hell I'm going to allow someone to treat me like that without me stabbing them in the neck or eye. All of these thoughts were racing through my head as I secretly followed her on her drive home. Like I did with my former therapist, I quietly entered her home through her basement and heard her taking a bath. This time I went into her bedroom and found all the evidence of her sleeping with school professors and even the university president. I also came across a letter revealing Kathy actually had a learning disability. She really was sleeping with the higher-ups for passing grades. I gathered the evidence in my purse with the intention of sending it to the College Board of Trustees. I must have been lost in my thoughts because I didn't notice she was behind me when she sucker punched me from behind, knocking me to the ground. I turned around and sucker punched her right back. Kathy then threw me down a flight of stairs where she attempted to jump on me. I must admit, she put up a good fight. We fought all around her house, but Kathy was no match for my 5'10" stature. We were punching, kicking, and hair-pulling our way to her bathroom when I became tired of fighting. I delivered the final blow to her head, where she passed out and knocked her head on the bathtub, killing her instantly. I looked down at her lifeless body and smirked. I may have been using Pastor Eddie, but I must admit I have pretty good memories with him. One of those memories is him taking me to his COGIC conventions. I didn't enjoy it because I loved learning about God. I enjoyed it because there were so many potential victims at the conventions. While everyone else was dressed modestly at the convention, I showed up with Pastor Eddie in my mini black sheer dress. Obviously, everyone's attention was on me. Some checked me out. Among them was the lead pastor of the convention, who was only known as C, especially when I purposely bent over in front of him to pick up the notebook I dropped. Others were downright upset. Have you guys been paying attention to the recent murders? One guest said at a big dinner table with me, Pastor Eddie, and C. I hope the killer doing this gets killed themselves in the same way, another guest said. Stop that. We as godly people don't wish negatively on anyone, C said. Why not? Everyone at the dinner table stared at me, including Pastor Eddie, because as Christians, we don't wish or think harm on others, C said. We forgive those who hurt us. What if that person was a terrible individual? I asked. God put on earth people who are considered good folks who don't bother anyone. But there are also troublemakers, and guess what? God put them on the earth too. I quickly stood up from my chair. Well, maybe I shouldn't subscribe to this religion because I can't love a God who can love someone so terrible. As I left the dinner table, Pastor Eddie whispered to see that he was sorry for my behavior. I then knew who would be my next victim. It was 2 a.m. and everyone was asleep at a hotel nearby the convention. I got up as quietly as I could since I was sharing a hotel room with Pastor Eddie. C was a floor down and he booked a room alone. Too easy for me, I initially thought. I tiptoed down his hallway wearing my red lingerie. There were 3 men smoking at the end of the hallway staring at me. Fuck you looking at, I thought to myself. I reached C's room and saw his do not disturb paper posted on his door. I thought about going back up and figuring out another way to get at him until I noticed his door was unlocked. Before I opened the door, he suddenly got up to use the bathroom. I slowly opened the door. He locked eyes with the deranged look I had on my face. Deb, I knew you would be with me. I knew you were too good for that piece of shit, Eddie. C responded, smiling. I was flabbergasted. I didn't know he was attracted to me. I saw this as an opportunity to seduce him. I knew I loved you since I first laid eyes on you, I told him. putting both my hands on his chest. I love you too. Let's not tell Eddie, C responded. We started smiling at one another as we took each other's clothes off until eventually we ended up in his bed. C got up to use the bathroom a few hours after our lovemaking session. As he used the bathroom, I got up and stood beside the bathroom door with my kitchen knife. Deb, where did you go? C said, laughing. When he turned around and saw me with my knife, he screamed, but to my surprise, no one on the floor heard it. He fell to the ground and I stabbed him with the knife. I forgive you, Debelah, C repeatedly said. As I stabbed him multiple times, I kept telling him to shut up until he took his last breath. His murder was not enjoyable at all. This was perhaps the most frustrating moment in my career as a serial killer. The very next weekend after the convention, I went to a bar. That incident with C had me feeling very uneasy. I went to the bar knowing my chances of finding another Christian victim was slim, as I sat there in the same black sheer dress I wore at the convention. A tall white man with red hair and freckles began walking toward my table. He just stood there and stared at me when he reached my table. The man seemed extremely timid. I couldn't believe how quick I found my next victim. Can I help you? I asked him. Would you like to dance to this song? The man asked. I really like this song playing, and I thought you would be someone I can dance with. I would like that. I smiled, trying to hide my excitement. The two of us ended up dancing for hours. He told me about himself while I told him lies. Initially, our conversation went well, and he seemed like a decent man. Would you like to come by my place and we can talk some more? He asked me. I'm sorry I can't. I have to get ready for work. Maybe another time. I'm going to ask you again, he said, this time with an aggressive tone. Are you coming home with me or not? I'm going to tell you again, maybe another time, I firmly said. He then grabbed me by my arm. I'm not taking no for an answer. Now get in my fucking car. I immediately knew this was not a nice guy. He really had me fooled. I grabbed my arm away from him and he slapped me so hard I fell out of my high heels. Before I was able to lash out physically, a man immediately ran up to him and threw him on the ground, punching him. It was Professor Paul from Criminology 101 class. He was really beating the hell out of this man, and everyone at the bar just stood there watching. I think it's because they all witnessed the man slapping me. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to put this woman's feet back into her damn heels, Professor Paul said, holding the man by the neck. The man then picked me up from the ground and left the bar. I could see that he wanted to hit me again, but was too afraid of Professor Paul. I'm so sorry about that, Debelah, Professor Paul said. Don't be sorry. I'll always appreciate what you did for me tonight. We looked into each other's eyes for a while. No words were said. Then we began kissing. I ended up going to Professor Paul's house that night from the bar. My intentions were to kill him with my ice pick, but he gave me such good doggy style that night I completely forgot. I also realized that night Professor Paul and I had a lot more in common besides our love for criminology. I always wanted to be with you, Deb, ever since the moment I saw you registering for classes for your freshman year, Professor Paul said, lying next to me in bed. Is that so? Yeah, I have been following your every move since then. That's nice. It was close to 4 a.m., so I was very tired. His words were basically going in one ear and out the other. So I know you murdered Kathy, Professor Paul said. I followed you all the way to her house. My tiredness immediately went away after he said that. I don't know what you're talking about, I said. Deb, I went inside her home and saw her dead body in the bathroom. Aren't you married? If you tell the cops, I will publicly go into details about this night. Check the refrigerator. At first, I wanted to lash out at him, but he had the most serious look on his face. I put on one of his shirts and went downstairs to the kitchen. I couldn't believe what I saw. It was his wife's decapitated head wrapped in a grocery store bag next to a box of strawberries. I put my hand over my mouth. I killed her, Professor Paul said, standing behind me. Well, where's the rest of her? I cooked her body and fed it to her family. I told the police she left one morning and never came back. I just stared at him. Look, I don't have any intentions on turning you in. I love murder just as much as you. I think we would make a great team, Professor Paul said. You mean like a killer couple? I asked. I would love that, Professor Paul said, smiling. I was in disbelief. I never met another killer. I wasn't so sure if I wanted a partner or not. I really have to get some sleep. I have work tomorrow, I told him. 10 months had passed since the Yorktown Four's disappearance. I remember the first time they thought they would be rescued. Professor Paul came into their room and immediately all 4 girls began shouting, "Help us!" Professor Paul just stood there staring at them until I came into the room and slapped Tamika. "Shut up, he's not here to help," I yelled at them. I then sat on the bed and began smoking my weed. I made them believe the entire neighborhood was in on it. Professor Paul walked in front of Donna. "You know, Deb, she's kind of cute. Can I take her to my place and have some fun with her?" Professor Paul asked. "How can you as a woman allow this man to say that in front of me?" Donna asked me. "You know what?" I responded. "Out of all four of you, you get on my nerves the most." "Well, I'm glad. You should be ashamed of yourself. You won't get away with this, and I cannot wait until I see you rot in prison." Everyone stared at me as I left the room. I came back and stood in front of Donna, my expression unreadable. I finally ripped Donna's right eye off. The other girls gasped. "Say something now, bitch," I yelled at Donna. "I'm assuming you have different methods of killing people," Professor Paul said. "Number, I don't know what my MO will be. That's why I'm holding them hostage. Do you have a MO?" "I simply shoot my victims in the head and cook their bodies," Professor Paul said. "You want to stitch her up?" I asked. Since saving me at the bar, Professor Paul and I were inseparable. He was over my house nearly every day, sharing his stories on his murder sprees and providing tips on how to not get caught. And just like Pastor Eddie, he didn't know that I was using him, at the beginning at least. One time at the university, Professor Paul found us another victim. According to Paul, he was in the elevator when a female student known as DD came in. "Yeah, I think I'm going to have to transfer schools," DD told the professor. "Why is that?" Professor Paul asked. "I don't know if you know Debelah Thompson, but she's been acting very strange since the disappearance." "Well, not strange, but sus," DD said. "Please, let's just keep this between me and you. Secret safe with me. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. Would you like to hang out sometime after your class?" "Are you asking me out on a date?" DD asked. "Yes, but don't say anything. I'll get in trouble," Professor Paul said. "I would love to. I won't tell a soul," DD said, smiling really big. Professor Paul knew DD had a crush on him, and that was how he lured her in. Later that afternoon, I went over to his house, where he told me he had a surprise for me in the basement. I walked down and saw DD hanging nude from the ceiling. "I have this bitch in one of my criminology classes," Professor Paul told me. "She was trying to make fun of you, but I wasn't having it. She thinks you're responsible for your sister's disappearance." "You're both crazy. I'm calling the cops," DD shouted. I slapped DD across the face, then took out my pocket knife and stabbed her in the ear, making her deaf. When I turned around, I could tell Professor Paul was enjoying it. "Does that turn you on?" I asked, laughing. "Yeah, I don't know why. But it turns me on when a woman stabs another woman," Professor Paul responded. The two of us laughed while I continued to stab DD until Professor ejaculated. Then I finally cut DD's throat. That's when I had another flashback of the night I murdered my mother. I erupted into uncontrollable laughter, the metallic taste of blood flooding my mouth as I relentlessly stabbed my mother's lifeless body. That night, for the first time, euphoria surged through me. Over 90 times the knife found its mark, each wound a dark testament to my hatred towards her. I plunged it into her eyes for the moment she caught my father and me making love in her bedroom. Her head was pierced for the venomous lies she fed me, twisting my mind into believing my father was the big bad wolf after she had him thrown behind bars. I drove the blade into her heart for shattering mine, for the cruel laughter she let loose when she learned he had been murdered in prison. When her blood painted the floor, I turned the knife inward, pressing it against my own stomach before dialing 911. 911, what's your emergency? The calm voice asked. Help me, please. Someone broke into our home, killed my mom, and attacked me, I screamed, my voice trembling but fierce. Don't worry, sweetheart. Help is on the way. What's your address? The dispatcher said with gentle urgency. The police arrived, convinced an unknown intruder had committed the brutal crime. They never suspected they had been speaking to the real killer all along. After making love in a pool of Dee Dee's blood, I decided to ask questions. I felt like I didn't know anything about him. I committed my first murder when I was 13, he said. It was a woman and her dog. How did you find her? She was a neighbor. I broke into her home in the middle of the night and shot her with her own gun. When I turned 21, my ex-girlfriend gifted me with 2 victims whom I shot 20 times total. Wow, you really must like guns. I honestly never used one. I studied criminology to figure out why I enjoy killing so much. I guess it's my personality. Who would you like to kill next? I asked. My family hasn't been the same since the death of my grandmother, Professor Paul responded. I don't have any more use for them. Nice. So let's go kill some of them now. Let's not rush. I have a large family on both sides. Let's have fun calculating their deaths. Professor Paul and stared at each other, smiling. The next 3.5 years would be filled with love and murder.